welcome to the Scottsdale Vibes podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Haygood. Pat Tillman is a name that everyone in Arizona knows and the whole country, and Pat's run just happened this past weekend. I'm so excited to have the CEO of the Pat Tillman Foundation with me today. So I'm going to take a short break, and when we come back, we dive into everything that Dan does for this Pat Tillman Foundation, what it meant to him to be a recipient of a scholarship, and how exciting this year's race was. So stay tuned. When it comes to protecting you, your family, and all your assets, you need to have someone that you can trust. And that's Jeremy Mueller of State Farm Insurance. Jeremy Mueller has lived in Scottsdale his whole life. How can anyone else know your needs more than someone who's been here and seen it all? Jeremy and his team are always ranked in the top % at State Farm. He cares, he's knowledgeable, and most importantly, he's always available. Don't believe me? Give him a call at 480-515-5223 or find him at jeremymueller.com. You can't be a part of Arizona and not know who Pat Tillman is. He was a man of honor, courage, and bravery. And while he isn't here in body, his legacy continues on each and every day through the Pat Tillman Foundation. Pat's run just celebrated its 19th year this past weekend. The 4.2-mile race, of course, ending at the 42-yard line of the ASU Sun Devil field, is in memory of number 42 himself, Mr. Pat Tillman. This week, I have the honor of speaking with Pat Tillman Foundation CEO, Dan Futrell. Dan has a long list of accolades to his name, so I'm only going to name a few, but you should really look at how great he is and what he's doing for this country and, for most importantly, the Pat Tillman Foundation. Dan grew up in foster care before moving to California to be raised by a single dad. He went on to graduate from Gonzaga on an ROTC scholarship, which led him to the military path after graduating. After 5 years in the service, he was awarded the Combat Infantryman's Badge, the Ranger Tab, and 2 Bronze Star medals. In 2011, he was a part of the 3rd class of the Pat Tillman Foundation, and since 2009, he holds the title of CEO. Dan, I'm so excited to have you here, and really what an honor to just be in your presence and talk to you. So I want to really start at the very basic of what the Pat Tillman Foundation means as a whole and what it means to service members like you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate you. And grateful to be talking about such a great day yesterday. The Pat Tillman Foundation for me, this is, you know, Marie Tillman, now Marie Tillman Shenton, and Alex Garwood and Ben Hill and Chris Hart and others, Jared Shriver, started this foundation, and with Kevin, started this foundation the month that Pat was killed in April 2004. And I think we all remember at that time the country was coming together, to just in sadness and grief at losing Pat. But here we are now, 19 years later, and this organization under Marie's leadership has supported over 800 Tillman scholars, all veterans and military spouses going back to school, and really doing incredible stuff in the world. So for me to be a part of this is truly an honor. I've been here now for 4 years, and every time I get to meet people who are part of this event or people who knew Pat, it continues to inspire me.
I don't think I realized that she started it a month after his death. I can't imagine as a widower going through that and having to mourn and then just immediately jumping on, like, we have to start this now to remember him in the way he wants us to carry on his legacy.
Yeah, well, at that time, the whole country was coming together in grief, and a lot of folks decided to, send a donation to the Tillman family or to the Cardinals or to ASU, and essentially we're saying, hey, like, do some good with this. We want to honor a life well lived, and from the early days. They came together and said, we want to support veterans. And Pat was somebody who cared about education, all throughout as a Sun Devil, was working on a master's degree in history, and was somebody who was, a lot more than just what he showed us on the football field, but was quite a thoughtful individual. So, but yeah, I agree with you. To have started that literally the month that he was killed still seems pretty incredible to me.
You were part of the third class of scholarship awardees. Tell me about that process that you went through. How did you hear about it? And really, how did it change your future, Dan?
Yeah, well, I had served for 5 years in the Army. Almost half of that was deployed in Baghdad, and on my second deployment, applied to grad schools. And while in grad school, working on a master's in public policy, another classmate of mine was in the second class of Tillman Scholars in 2010, and Reagan Turner, and he said, hey, you should really consider this. He's a Marine infantry officer, and he said, hey, you should really look into this. And I did, and applied, and was grateful to have made it through the process. But I think there's a lot that has changed for the foundation since I was a scholar in 2011. We now have 24 people on our team, and that means we are able to do a lot more for our scholars and supporting them in all the ways that they need. Uh, but in many ways, we're the same too, and I hope that stays that way. We're motivated by just helping people get to where they want to go. And this work is like at its core really optimistic. And for that to be what comes out of a tragedy that we all wish never happened, to create a community of optimistic people trying to make a positive difference in the world. And then to show up yesterday and see 30,000 people running and walking, and families, kids, people racing each other in Corral 1 and people walking with their families in Corral 28. That's just like, if you don't get energy from that, man, you need to go to the doctor, because that's just it. That's what brings us alive here.
I love that. And I love that word optimistic. I feel like so many of us, since, the war has started in the early 2000s, you and I are around the same age, and it really was such a huge part of our adulthood. It started when we were starting college, and I'm very formed by all of that and how it affected us. The optimism now is something that we very much need. And I love that y'all are influencing people in a positive way to, most importantly, make a positive impact on our community and our country as a whole. It's so much why I started this podcast, was to bring the community together and focus on all the great things we have going on around us. It just makes life easier for me, I feel like, to live. And I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, hopefully, what people saw yesterday too, at the race, is that optimism. We had Tillman scholars who were like the corral leaders for every corral, and we get to call out their name before we start, and they kind of raise their hand, and everybody gets to see they got the special colored shirts and all that. But that's part of what this is about. The community that showed up yesterday, but also the Tillman scholars that not just yesterday, but they're supported for the coming year, and years into the future, because people show up. That's hopefully people got a chance to meet some of our scholars, and just have a conversation and get to know what they're doing, what they're working on. We have scholars with so much going on right now, and you talk about optimism. There's a lot to be pessimistic about. There's no shortage of headlines
easy
about.
to find it, I'll tell you.
Yeah, it's right, exactly. If anybody who has notifications on their phone, it's like, if you pick it up, it's like, oh man, what happened now? And
So sad and true.
yeah, it's like, you don't get notifications for good stuff. And so, whether it's gun violence across the country, or kind of concerns about our democracy kind of writ large, or the pandemic, especially early on. And on all of these things, we have Tillman scholars who are trying to make a positive difference, and support support the country. There's one of the things that we're really proud of is that our scholar community is very diverse, in all sorts of ways. Male, female, different services, military veteran or military spouse, politically right or left, all sorts of things. We have a very diverse, racially, we have a very diverse community. And I would tell you that we are a subset of the country. And we have, especially on things that are particularly divisive today, that might cause people some consternation. We have really good conversations within our community that are civil, that are where there are two sides of an issue. Our scholars are coming together to hear each other, and that's really kind of step one, is to actually hear each other, and start with an assumption that, hey, the person that you might disagree with is a good person and like wants to do it right for the right reasons 9 times out of 10. And then let's actually listen and try to have a conversation. That's the kind of thing where, my phone isn't notifying me to tell me that all that good stuff is happening in the world. I think it is, and there's a maybe a media issue in the news world, but in our Tillman Scholar community as well. And I think, maybe people saw it yesterday. People are coming together to have conversations that are ultimately good for everybody.
I love that. You're like speaking my love language. It's like if we just like stopped and listened to what people had to say rather than go in with a preconceived notion or judgment, we might learn a thing or two and actually find things that we have in common. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Let's talk about that. You threw out some stats about how many, different areas of the military branch and stuff you have. I'm just going to throw some stats out there. More than 800 scholarships worth over $24 million. 166 universities are representative. That's impressive for something that hasn't been around for that long. Talk about how you got to this point, how you are growing, and really how the country comes together to continue to support our veterans and their spouses.
Yeah. Well, I'll say our scholars have gone to school across the country, but also, here in Arizona, we have 17 Tillman scholars have graduated from ASU. I will say, not that there's any sort of competition here. 24 have gone to U of A down the road. And that's all fun games. But, our 60 scholars a year, we made a decision early on, and the board made a decision early on for the Pat Tillman Foundation that we wanted to support a smaller number of Tillman scholars, but deeply. And, with a finite amount of resources, let's make sure we're like really making a difference in people's lives and opening up opportunities that might not have been there. And instead of, offering, let's say, $500 scholarships to, whatever number of folks. And what that has created now, 19 years in, is a community where people are really invested in supporting each other. And I'm talking about our Tillman Scholar community. They really want to help each other succeed. And there's a sense of obligation because this has Pat's name on it. There's a sense of obligation. They're like, hey, whatever you did yesterday, whatever you did last year, that was kind of cool, kind of awesome, help somebody out. Like, you're not done. What are you doing next? And we all feel that with each other. And when we show up to Pat's run, you ask how can people be a part and support and whatnot. Like, showing up yesterday is a big piece of that, and just bringing that energy. That's a big deal that allows us to keep supporting these veterans and military spouses.
I love that. I want to talk about, like, I don't know if you call them pillars or the three things you offer. And I think before I go into it, I think it's really great that you offer an in-depth scholarship because $500 at this point will probably only buy you half a textbook, I swear, compared to when I grew up. All right. I was reading about the three pillars. You have scholarships, leadership development, and the global community. Talk about those three things and the importance and why those are your three bullet points and topics that y'all really stick to.
Yeah, the scholarship was that's where we have started, right? And when we begin our relationship with our Tillman scholars, it starts with the scholarship.
Mhm.
And so we get a lot of applicants for our 60 scholarships a year. Close to 2,000 applicants, and so there's a very in-depth process. By the time the scholar is selected every year, and we're in the middle of the process right now, at least 30 people have looked at their application and advocated for them to move forward.
Wow.
And so there's multiple stages. We have committees that will look at groups of applicants, and there will be passionate debates about what it means to be a Tillman scholar. So that scholarship, that has traditionally been the thing that we offered. I'd tell you right now, it is only the first thing that we offer. When somebody's selected as a Tillman scholar, they're a scholar for life. And they get to keep coming back. In the community and the leadership development stuff, that's all support as after graduation. And so step one is get them across the stage, do the little tassel thing or whatever it is, right? And like, get your graduation, get your degree. Okay, great. But now what are you really doing in the world? And most of our scholars, when they're selected, they are just under 30 years old. And so there's a lot of life left, a lot of learning left, a lot of growth left. They've done some impressive stuff, great, but there's a lot more to do. And the other two pillars there, the leadership development and the community, those are meant to nurture what happens after graduation. And so, you take, let's all just imagine, some impressive 28-year-old that we might know in our lives, right? All right, great. For the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years, there's going to be a lot of growth there. The Pat Tillman Foundation wants to be a part of that growth. And so we've created a curriculum, a program to help them to identify different attributes around leadership, all based on past life: decisiveness, tenacity, creativity, passion, inclusivity, and caring. And those 6 attributes have a set of skills underneath each of them. And we've built out a program to help people grow. If they say, oh, I want to grow in decisiveness, well, great, let's talk about that. Let's figure out how to do it. And by the way, we have a community of scholars who are trying to do it together. We've created a whole curriculum around that to help our scholars grow. And this year, we launched what's called the Tillman Leadership Institute, which brings that curriculum to other partners, whether corporate partners or governmental agencies or other nonprofits. The USO and Wounded Warrior Project are going through one of our programs right now, our Emerging Leader program. And so, but so too is Bank of America and DraftKings and Clear and other organizations. So the leadership development is a key piece of this, and then the community. I think anybody who's done a job in their life or had a period of their life where it's been really intense, and so in my life it was the military, but like people outside of the military have this too, right? If you go through a period of life where it's pretty intense, you're working hard, you develop those bonds with each other, and those bonds can last. And at times when you're stressed or you're riding the highs a little bit, that's the community that keeps you level. There's a video out there with Tom Hanks. It's an interview, and he talks about he says the thing that I wish somebody had told me at the beginning of my career is this too shall pass. And he says, if you did an awesome project, you won, you high fives, everything is, you're on top of the world, this too shall pass. If you're in a low and you're missing everything, you're failing, everything's going wrong, this too shall pass. And the message there is really like, hey, you're going to have some wins, great, but like there's a day after that. You're going to have some losses, and there's a day after that. And how do this community like keeps that perspective with each other and keeps looking forward, which is part of what we offer to our scholars, and events like yesterday make possible.
Interesting. I never really thought this too shall pass really has like a negative connotation, right? Like you say that to yourself to like get through those hard moments, but you're right. The highs are high for a moment, but the next day comes along and the next day, and then that high goes away. So I like that. Yeah. Let's take a short break. I'm going to come back and check in with our sponsors. When we come back, I want to talk about the race because we're finally back. We're not, we have the virtual and in person. I'm sure it's so exciting. The energy was real and alive. So let's dive into that a little bit after this short break. Buying a home can be scary and sometimes frustrating, but all of that can go away with the right realtor. And that's where Sean Shackleton with the Shackleton Group is here for you. Sean has over 25 years experience in real estate. She's here to get you what you want and won't settle for less. She's experienced, knowledgeable, and understands this market, which these days is always changing. Take the stress out of your next home purchase by calling Sean at 480-734-7277. You can also find her at theshackletongroup.com. 19 years we just celebrated of Pat's run. You had a couple virtual runs due to COVID years. Tell me about being back where it all began this year. What was it like to you?
There's nothing that replaces coming in through the tunnel and coming out on the field in Sun Devil Stadium. You look up to the rafters, you see Pat's number, Pat's name up at the top there, and come on through the balloon finish line with the clock going and everybody shouting for you. There's nothing that replaces that. And man, I'm so grateful that people continue to care enough to show up on a Saturday morning, get up early, beat the heat, and just be a part of this community. And I'll tell you what, too. Yesterday we also had the spring game with the ASU, the Sun Devils.
Yep.
at noon yesterday, and we also had Pints for Pat right before that. We had a lot going on. So right after the race, I know there were a lot of folks that got out there and had a Guinness in honor of Pat. Doesn't matter that it was 11 a.m. Guinness tastes
Yeah.
good actually at every hour, especially if you
Breakfast, it's
just.
a filling beer, so you're
That's
good.
right. That's right. Especially after you just ran 4.2 miles. So it means the world to me, and everybody here at the foundation, to be able to pull off a day like yesterday and for everybody to show up. So I show up today just with nothing but gratitude.
I mean, it's not even here though, Dan. You had virtual runs all over the country. Do you have any idea or guesstimate of like how many people are participated nationwide?
Yeah, just under 5,000 people were outside of Tempe. So the total on that comes to about 33,000 people total.
All for one man, for one foundation. That says a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and this doesn't happen without a whole community making it work. Tech Systems is our presenting sponsor for the race, and they've been a loyal sponsor for 8 years now, and they continue to step up to the plate to help us get this off, and not only just the partnership side stuff. Of course, there's a financial element that makes this possible, but even more than that, they show up. They had, I think, 40, 50 people from Tech Systems came into town yesterday to run the race, which is just great. And then ASU has been such a wonderful partner. We're finishing on their campus,
Yeah.
and a lot goes into making it safe, making sure that everybody's healthy and all that. And so we're just totally grateful for Tech Systems and for ASU.
I mean, okay, so you're an ultra marathoner, runner yourself, an Ironman. I love walking 4.2 miles. My husband's an ultra marathoner runner as well. And I said, even if my life depended on it, he'd probably still beat me. So what is running 4.2 miles to you? Like, what's your record for this, Dan? It's beating me. It's fine. I'm fine.
That's funny. So first of all, you're giving me a lot of credit. I am a marathoner. I've
Okay.
not done an ultra marathon yet.
So me.
Um,
I like the word
but
yet. Yeah, good luck with
yeah,
that.
I haven't done it yet. And uh, I haven't done a triathlon yet either. My best marathon is 2:48, and I think I have one more. I've been dealing with a foot injury, so I think I have one more. Best marathon. I think I can go faster than 2:48. I probably have one more in me. But for Pat's run, my best was in 2021. It was the second virtual one. Actually, I actually won the race. I ran at the fastest time, and that was super cool. I ran it in I forgot, but I'm pulling it up here. I ran it in 21:36 that day.
I mean, do we
For
have
4.2
proof
miles.
of this that it's virtual? So I don't know if like you had someone following you at the like we have proof of this, right?
Excuse me, ma'am. I'm gonna send you the GPS Strava activity log
Oh,
there
okay.
so that
As
you can
I've
see
learned
that
with
I
my husband, if it's
I
not on
actually
Strava, it doesn't count. So that's
I actually did do that. I actually did do it.
I will
Yes,
be sure to share it. You're right. You're right. I see it. That's hilarious. If it's not on Strava, it doesn't count.
that's
That's what
right.
I learned. Yeah.
That's
That's
right. You'll also notice, so Perry Ettinger, who is the co-founder of Pat's Run, and was Pat's athletic trainer at ASU when he played. Perry is super fast. He is an ultra marathoner, and he and I had a little competition this year in 2021, and he placed second. I placed first. But the way that I will say this, the way the days shook out, first of all, he's got, I think, 20 years on me plus whatever. So like he wins right off the bat. But also, the way the days shook out, he did it. There was like a 2-day window to do it, and he ran a day before I did, and it was virtual. So he ran it on a treadmill, and I thought that was questionable in terms of a competition. And I had been the week prior, I had been debating like, all right, I know a place where I could run a downhill patch run, and like, is that okay? Is that fair? I don't know. And I was thinking about it, and I was kind of on a text thread with Perry, like taunting him, like, well, I'm gonna find a place where the wind's behind my back and it's all downhill. I hadn't committed to doing it yet, but then I saw I did it on the treadmill, and I was like, oh man, okay, it's game on. So you'll see in my Strava thing, I ran the whole thing downhill, and it was
that's
a
how
lot
I
of fun. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Now we're talking. Now we're talking. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
What's next for the Pat Tillman Foundation? What can we do to continue to support you, and what can we expect to look forward to with you guys?
Well, we've done the last couple of years a Patch Run Challenge series, and we started this during the pandemic. We've had two other virtual events throughout the year, one in July or August, and one in September, the 42 and 40 challenge. So 42 miles in 40 days starts on, sorry, I said September, starts on October 3rd, ends on Veterans Day, November 11th. And people can run, walk, hike, whatever, 42 miles over that period of 40 days. And that's a lot of fun. People post pictures of what they're doing. And it's a, kind of 6 months off cycle with Patch Run. So people are just getting out, and, in the Valley here, it's getting a little bit cooler. But one of the things that I'll share with you is August 12th, we're going to do a service challenge. And, we did one year, we did a 10K, we did we did a 10K. People were like, not super pumped about that. 4.2, maybe that's enough. And then the next year we did a step challenge. Thinking maybe people, at work would like count your steps and whatnot. And people weren't really into that. It's fun. We're just testing things out. It's like, great. So this year, we're going back to our roots, and you don't, you could sign up. There's no cost to do it, right? There's no like, you could buy a t-shirt if you want, but like, there's no cost to do it. Our ask really is for all of our community to get out there and volunteer and do some community service together on August 12th, and share a photo of you and your family getting out there and doing something for the community. That's really what's important here. And that, like, it's past service that continues to inspire us. So for people that want to get involved, I'd say put August 12th on your calendar and, start thinking about what you're going to do in your community that helps other people. You want to do the 42 and 40 challenge after that in October, great. You want to, show up for a Pints for Pat somewhere in your community, great. But I'd say, a service day is a good use of time.
I love that. That's right up my alley now. I'll hike 4.2 miles. I love hiking and walking, and
please. Yeah.
That's enough. And that's what we love doing in Arizona, which leads me to my next question. I know that it's happening in Tempe, the race and everything did, but Scottsdale's right on the other side of the canal. So
Yep.
Let me ask you, Dan, what is your favorite Scottsdale vibe?
I've got a friend, a very close friend of mine, who was an assistant cross country coach when I ran at Gonzaga, 20 years ago. He now lives in Scottsdale. And so oftentimes when I come down here for work, I'll stay with him. And, he's, he likes taking me out to different, different restaurants and grabbing good beers and whatnot. Y'all have like a solid car scene going on in Scottsdale. Like if we're out like sitting on a patio and having a margarita or a beer, like the cars that are driving by are amazing. And the people who are driving them, they know that those cars are amazing as well. And they're driving at just the right speed so we could all check it out. That's something that I don't get a lot of normally in my day-to-day life, but I appreciate it.
That's something new, a new answer I've gotten, but you're really right. Like if you're sitting there, most people are like, oh, I love people watching. You could totally car watch here and get the same feeling of people watching in another city or something. I love that.
It's a vibe. That's the Scottsdale vibe.
I love it. Dan, congratulations on your huge success this year. We're so happy to have you guys back and in full force. It was a great energy, a great time. Congratulations on all that you've accomplished. And I know this is just the beginning for you all. And thank you for taking time out to speak with us today. When it comes to family-friendly dentistry, there's only one place in Scottsdale, and that's Arizona Center for Laser Dentistry. Teeth cleaning, innovative, pain-free laser dentistry, teeth whitening, root canals, and really any dental need you may have, Dr. Rob and his staff at Arizona Center for Laser Dentistry can handle it all. They're more than just a dentist, they really are family. We've been going there for over 3 years, and my family loves them. When your kids get excited to go to the dentist, you know you've got a good one. Dr. Rob DeVito is the only dentist in town that can handle it all. Give him a call at 480-990-1905. You can find him on the web at drdevito.com. And don't forget to tell him you heard him on the podcast. Have a wonderful week, Scottsdale. Keep vibing, and I'll see you around town.